Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I meet with my friend Michael Del Russi, and we explore the Herculean path. Michael always has interesting things prepared for us to talk about. So, without further ado, we proceed to Michael. Greetings, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. I hope everybody's doing well.
As do I, and I'm really looking forward to hear what you have prepared for us today.
Well, I have some taking a deep dive more or less into faith principles that I
Okay.
think are extremely important when it comes to talking about how we can enhance human potential. Uh, what I would like to know, speaking of human potential, and I know the vast experience you've had in this area. Can you share just a little bit the basic principles of theosophy? I was studying that earlier today, and I know about Madame Blavatsky and some of the ascended masters, if you will. It was her work your main source, the main area of beginnings, if you will, when it came to your own studies of the theosophy?
It helped a lot. I discovered the word theosophy in Greek school, parochial school, where I
Mm-hmm.
went as a child. Like I discovered the
Mm-hmm.
word theurgy. Theurgy means divine deeds or divine actions, and theosophy means divine insights or divine wisdom. And these terms arose during the Hellenistic era, which was the era of Alexander the Great and the early Caesars and Cleopatra, that the Ptolemies, that around that period of time when all that was going
Mm-hmm.
on. And for the first time, you had a vast kingdom that was connected, and it was easy for people to travel and to communicate with each other. So the Phoenicians, who are the Canaanites of the Bible, they were a
Mm-hmm.
mercantile force. They were very rich. They had boats. They went all over the place. And in addition to their wares, which they traded with people all over the Mediterranean and beyond, um, they also spread their information on a variety
Mm-hmm.
of things, their mythology, their religion, their science, all sorts of information. So what happened was the ancients, and in particular one ancient named Ammonius Saccas, noticed
Mm-hmm.
that the external or mythical or cultural information was different from place to place, although it had a lot of similarities. But the
Mm-hmm.
secret stuff, the property of priests that they went to school to study for, that seemed to be very similar. So he called that
Mm-hmm.
esoteric lore. And
Right.
it was the exoteric, which is what the people were doing. And then there were the esoteric, which is what was hidden from the people by the priests. So this way, the priests started standardizing this information so that, let's say you got your information in Babylon, and then you went to the Celtic lands where the Druids
Mm-hmm.
were, there'd be a lot of things that you can discuss that were of relevance to both of you, um, rather than finding yourself in different imaginal worlds each time you had a conversation with somebody. And a lot of the information was practical, like the astronomy and the navigation that's contained in the old stories and so forth. It's very similar to the New Testament, where Jesus said that to the masses he speaks in parables, but to the elect he speaks more forthcomingly. That's generally the concept. So with me, the system of theosophy, Blavatskyan theosophy, was learned when I was a teenager, and I was a deep trance medium for a group that was uh, descended from Blavatsky in the work that
Mm-hmm.
it was doing. So I found out about Blavatsky and all her type of work there. The earlier type of theosophy I learned at school and by reading. And then
So the terminology, theosophy and theurgy, they go back. How long would you say? How much time are we told? Are these really a term? Are these terms that were used in uh, ancient times?
by the time of Alexander, yes, they were used. So I figure like
I
three.
did not know that.
And during the time when people were burning libraries and doing things like that, a lot of the theosophy went underground, and it became the loot of magical groups who kept it
Hmm.
hidden, and occasionally would flower up here and there. And a Christian theosophy even arose during the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages. But that went
Hmm.
underground pretty fast. And Blavatsky brought theosophy back out into the open, and she extended the circle. The original theosophy in the Roman Empire was
Hmm.
pretty much based around the Mediterranean Sea and a little beyond, like into India.
Hmm.
So it was mostly focused on the wisdom in the Mediterranean, but Blavatsky pushed it further into the Orient and into the Americas. So she really widened the
Hmm.
circle. And then later on, with the I Am movement and other neo-theosophies, it became even more wide in the circle of cultures that it encompassed. It became global almost.
I was reading about the I am movement, as
Yes,
it seemed to have a strong following at one time. Uh,
it's
and then
still
I from is it still around?
it's still around. It has a lot of adherents, and I even hear early speeches from the I am movement find their way in the mouths of politicians who kind of
No, really.
recycling these speeches to some degree.
Well, yeah, it's on the same level as traditional Christianity today, as most individuals recognize it. Naturally, they're not going to accent this, but so much of positive Christianity today has borrowed from New Thought and New Age principles, if you will. Of course, they don't see themselves that way, but the similarity is obvious. So you have so much in terms of, and I do believe in positive Christianity and the positive source of mind in terms of creating. Uh, I do find it interesting that a lot of these supposed traditional Christian ministries, if you will, they have borrowed heavily from New Thought and
Yes.
some of and it's so obvious. Anyone who's done a little history, it's just very plain. So I find that very interesting. I was reading today about the Ethiopian Bible and
Yes.
how, yeah, I could see you're familiar with that. There's
Yeah.
another thing where they say some more than 14 books were eliminated once at the Council of Nicaea, once they began putting the New Testament together. How many books were actually eliminated?
A
But
lot.
what did you learn from the about in terms of the Ethiopian Bible?
Well, the Ethiopian Bible didn't get rid of any of the books. They didn't like trim it down and make some books canon and other books non-canon. The Greek
Right,
Bible has the Apocrypha, and
right.
they're not like standard canonical, but they're writings that belong with the material. So the
Hmm.
Apocrypha are very different than the Christianity that is spread in the other Gospels and the other material, Paul's letters and so forth,
Hmm.
which is, I guess, why they got tried to get rid of them. But you have things
Yes.
like I remember Jesus. What do you call it, making small animals out of clay and then breathing life into them, and they were moving around. And some friend of Jesus's when he was a kid died, and they blamed Jesus, and Jesus brought him back from the dead long enough for him to say that Jesus was a filthy. Those are like two of the stories
Right.
that I remember. So Christianity in its early days was something again very different than what we have uh, in our understanding of Christianity. With the I Am movement, it went further than Blavatsky's theosophy, because although Blavatsky's theosophy dealt a lot with esoteric Christianity as well as other esoterica, she wasn't a
Mhm.
friend of the Abrahamic religions, although she's very familiar with the wisdom teachings and she shared them freely and I believe quite fairly. But the I Am movement has Jesus as one of the ascended masters, and he's
Mhm.
the head of one of the cosmic rays, I believe, love, or he's the world teacher in some other I Am systems. So he's universal, and he works closely with Zeus and Buddha and
Mm.
other gods. All of them work together to help humanity learn from the schoolroom we find ourselves in and to ascend to higher plane, to return back to heaven or paradise.
Well, that's some interesting history. I actually didn't discover Blavatsky until, well, maybe 10 years ago. I didn't know anything of her. My first exposure, really, as far as the schools of ascended masters, was Elizabeth Clare Prophet.
Yes,
I'm sure you're familiar with her, and the Universal Church Triumphant. I
yes.
had been looking at some mystical work one day, and it was very thorough in terms of, the wide-ranging beliefs, concepts, and ascended masters that were being recognized by them at that time.
Yes, she wrote The Lost Years of Jesus, and she wrote a lot of other pretty influential metaphysical books. And she was the person who was quoted by one of our politicians, by the way.
Really.
Yeah, they had on YouTube. They had the speech that he gave, and then they had Elizabeth Clare Prophet's speech, and it was almost word for word.
That's remarkable. I didn't know that. That's amazing. But so there was any number of splinter groups, coming from the I Am movement and coming from the Elizabeth Clare Prophet ministry, if you will, throughout the decades, I guess. But all of this information, I think, is extremely useful and can change lives. And I believe lives have been changed through the availability of this information, because the more I study, the more I try to go deep in terms of the centuries that have passed, the more it occurs to me how instrumental the Christ, the Anointed One, was and still is in terms of getting to the roots of this information, which we'll never really know. I don't think we will ever really know just how much manipulation was involved in putting the New Testament as we know it, putting it together, and all of the mystical experiences that Jesus brought with him, because it seems fairly manipulative in terms of what may have been actually available to us. So when I came across this information the other day in terms of the Ethiopian Bible, I mean, there's so many books were held back, eliminated completely, and I know I read some of these about some of the circumstances that you just described in terms of Jesus raising some people from the dead, and being depicted more as a shaman or a magician, if you will. Especially in the Book of Thomas, has been mentioned several times that Jesus appeared that way. So we'll never really know all of the color and excitement, if you will, that may be involved in the ministry of the Christ throughout his time, because it's so manipulated, so basically held back from the general public at large. But that's what the Catholic Church, I think, is largely responsible for that, be good or bad.
Information, because this information is, even though there are levels involved, and I really don't like the word masters uh, because of its connotations and the word chela. Chela is a
Mm.
of these teachings, but the word chela can also mean slave.
Oh,
So
really?
that's one of my gripes against all this information. But it's good information. I have a whole library of books on this topic, and actually, I prefer working with that system because it's so democratic. The cultures
Hmm.
are still respected, and the cultural icons and messiahs and saviors are still respected, and they're not inimical to each other. No one's consigning anybody else to hell or to perdition, but they're all working together to help the humanity that they were part of themselves. So I like
Hmm.
that. And again, I don't know if that's literally true or not, but in terms of cosmic truth, it certainly rings very powerfully for me, because I believe we're all here to help each other.
Oh, absolutely. And along with that, I mean, the indwelling source is in all of us. The
Yes.
indwelling mind is in all of us. And I think we have to stop on a regular basis and remind ourselves of that reality. The indwelling source is in all of us. And it's our responsibility in terms of growth to let that source come alive and hopefully not only benefit our own decision making and what we may do in terms of a mystical life, but also to rescue others who may need rescuing, or to let them others that they can be exposed to this vital information that has been so ignored and held back from the public. And for me myself, I know that's why I'm so grateful for the mystery schools and what they had to teach, and just to have that knowledge available to me, for me to look and research and study. Hermetics is another area. Hermetic beliefs are just phenomenal, I think, in so many ways. And again, you wouldn't know it by your traditional church teachings. I was talking to a group of Mormons a week ago, and we discussed baptism as an example, and they talk about the importance of baptism in their denomination. I fully understand that, but it was always, I was stuck in the space where, well, what I was baptized. I have been baptized in the eyes of creative mind. I was baptized when I was very small as a Catholic, but then I began, a light bulb went on, and I started to understand why they feel baptism is necessary in the now, or in your adult years. The Catholic Church believes in something called original sin, and the only way you can deal with original sin is through baptism. But you're really not a cognizant human being, as a young infant, you're not. And I said, I think I understand now why the Mormon Church believes baptism is so essential in your adult years, because now you're in the area of decision making, co-creating your own life, and I think I understand it better now. So they agree with me that yes, that is why we like to see people being baptized. I said, but for the longest time, I couldn't rationalize it. While I respect them, I think they're beautiful people. You don't have to be a Mormon to respect the good that the church does, and they do a lot of good. But I couldn't get that for the longest time. I said, look, there's some of your mystical teachings I actually can relate to, being a metaphysician myself. I said, but I don't understand this insistence on baptism. Then just recently, maybe 3 weeks ago, I think we had our meeting, it dawned on me. I said, now I get it. I understand why baptism is so essential, because now we're cognizant, we're able to make decisions on our own, and baptism is more relatable in terms of why they feel, anyway, that it blesses a human life. But for the longest time, I couldn't make sense of that, because again, in the eyes of the infinite mind, I've already been baptized, whatever importance one may place on it. So for me, it's funny how you can receive these little revelations in areas that you're stuck on, and you said, I couldn't relate to it. Then suddenly it came to me. I said, now I understand why baptism in your denomination is so vitally important in terms of adult years.
The Mormons also believe that you can baptize the dead. So uh, they do ceremonies where the people in your family who came before you, you can baptize them, and they would get the benefit of baptism even if they weren't baptized while they were alive here on this world.
I have heard that some of the practices are obviously very unusual as compared to other Christian denominations as we know them. But there are some metaphysical parallels that you can share in some of the things they teach. But I guess the point I'm making in sharing that is how you can miss something for so long, and I was missing it, and then suddenly it occurred to me. Now I understand why it's so important to these people, to these individuals.
Right.
But it's funny how that's why even reading scripture, and that's why I respect the teachings of Neville Goodhart so much, because he understood reading scripture as we know it, at least as it's been presented to us from a metaphysical perspective. And that's why he shares almost exclusively from Old and New Testament, and mostly from teachings of the Christ in terms of manifesting here in the here and now. Because he's able to see it from a universal perspective. And that's hardly taught in today's standards or today's denominations as we know them, as they have been presented to us. So that's why because if you read the Bible from universal vision, it takes you to another level. And I guess that would be true of most sacred scripture, but especially true in terms of scripture as it's been presented to us. But for those of us who have gone beyond the denominational aspect of it and seeking deeper meaning, I think we get the message, in that respect.
Sure. The more you move around in the universe of beliefs, the more perspectives you can gather, and the more truths you're going to be able to apprehend. Because what you grasp depends on where you've stood and where you're currently standing, and what you've been exposed to. So the synthesis of all that and what you're open to allows you to see things from different perspectives, and to, as you pointed out, understand why people believe certain things and why they do certain things. You don't have to accept their explanation, but at least you can understand it.
Absolutely, and I think based on that, I think it's vital that we open the pathways of our mind. We open up our ability to receive, and then of course we will make the final judgment. What's workable, what's not workable, what may be more meaningful to our lives. But yeah, I learned that lesson just recently, and it was like a light. A light went off. I said, wait, now I understand why this is so important to them. Now I get it, why they put such an emphasis on it. And, whether you accept it or not, that's a whole different story. But yeah, it shows why it's so important that we're here to keep moving forward in terms of mystical knowledge, in terms of, imagination, which is so important in creating in the now. Why we have to keep our minds open.
And also, some of these paths take dark turns, and some of the offshoots. Not everything is light and advancement. There are some versions of these organization system of belief that become very dark.
Yes, well, there's no doubt about that. That's very, very true, and that's why it's so important, so critical for us to, maintain our rationality in terms of just what we're exploring. And when I first entered into New Thought, of course, I heard it was I got my share of criticism. Oh, that's not Michael. That's not what you were raised with. That's not Catholic is the one true religion. What are you doing? That's, in fact, just recently, I was talking to someone about mediumship. And he said, that's the devil. No, you're being betrayed. You're being betrayed. You're being fooled. That's a dark place. Don't go there. And of course, that's, to me, at this time of my life, I think that's very sad, because I do believe in the validity and the evidential source of mediumship, I think, is very real. I've had experiences myself, several experiences, and it's interesting. And I guess this can happen occasionally to all of us. When you're really seeking contact, you're not getting anything. But when you're not seeking it, maybe you're not even thinking about it. All of a sudden, either a manifestation, a spirit manifestation, a voice, some kind of evidence that you can't explain in terms of third dimensional thinking presents itself to you. And that's what happened to me on several occasions over the last, I would say, 10 years. I had experiences that I could not possibly explain by scientific law as we know it. But yeah, I think personally, I think we're cheating ourselves if we close our eyes to the evidential presence of mediumship. I think is very real. I think the spiritual union in England, I know in Lilydale, New York, there's all mediums. Lilydale is so many mediums have gone there to study, and some that have come over from England have gone to Lilydale. So and there's a goodness and comfort when you're truly getting read by an authentic medium, and the evidence is coming through. There's a certain comfort, and that you really can't receive anywhere else because it's there. It's there. It's facts, figures, stories that the person being read is the only one that could possibly know these things. So I think mediumship is of great value in the here and now, and we know through our abilities electronically these days that it's becoming more available. It's definitely becoming more available. I've come across several spiritual groups. The paranormal couple is one paranormal couple. They visit cemeteries all over the place. And there's one gentleman is called Hope Paranormal. And he reads virtually anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. And I've been doing a considerable amount of exploring in terms of what he does. So far, it seems very authentic. And so we know there's people that know how to do this. They know how to use the various devices that you can definitely bring someone through. So I think the mediumship overall is a blessing, and I've always believed, and I've never been, a expert when it comes to electronics or magnetism in that area, but I've always believed. Years and years ago, I said this, that I believe there'll be a day when we will make contact almost effortlessly through what we know now in terms of harnessing magnetic fields and what we can do with some of the instruments up to this point. And we can bring spirit through more accurately and precisely and simply speak to the other side. So I think it's happening now in a bigger way now than it ever has before, and I think it's very interesting.
Oh, it's very interesting. I believe in the phenomenon because I was a deep trance medium for like half a decade. So I know that it's real. And by darker, I didn't mean being warned against spiritual reality. I'm talking about like with Theosophy. Theosophy inspired Ariosophy, which was a Nazi version of Theosophy.
Oh, yeah.
They adopted certain beliefs about lost continents and certain beliefs about root races, and it became something a bit different than what Blavatsky had in mind when she was trying to spread brotherhood amongst humanity.
Well, I'm interested too because I think they touched upon it briefly in some of the documentaries I've seen. What have you learned in terms of the history, if there is a history, of Saint Germain? I know even growing up, I would hear my father, who was hardly as well versed as you are and some of your guests in this area. He would speak briefly of Saint Germain. What were your impressions of Saint Germain as we know it?
Well, he was a Count Rokosky, if I remember correctly, or something like that. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. and he lived for a very long time, and he played an active role, but invisibly mostly in European politics and spirituality. And some say he's alive
Hmm.
today. In fact, he's supposed to have inspired the I am movement when Ballard was at a mountain in California, and
Hmm.
he met Saint Germain, and Saint Germain gave him the earliest dictations for the I am movement. And in the I
Hmm.
am movement, Saint Germain plays a very important role. He supposedly has a chair that helps you evolve quicker,
Hmm.
and he introduced a lot of the technologies that the I am movement, spiritual technologies that the I am movement makes use of.
I think my father read a book on him. I was very young, called "The Man That Could Not Die," and that was one of many books, or would not die. And so I can relate to what you're saying because yes, the theory goes that he lives on and he lives on, and he's even to the present time he's somewhere out there. So I do remember that part of it. But he considered an ascended master, or was he in a category of his own? Uh,
Depends who you talk
I
to.
wonder.
Consider him an ascended master.
He was an ascended master.
That's what most people consider him as. He was
I
involved in
see.
spy operations and all sorts of other stuff. So unless
Mm.
the job description sends masters varies from place to place, it seems to have been a
Right.
special case. Cagliostro also too was very active in the world, and he seemed to have earned a special place in the IM literature.
Hmm. Who was that? I'm not too familiar with him. I've heard the name, but I'm not too familiar with that
He was
individual.
one of these characters that, with hints of royalty, who was working
Hmm.
behind the scenes. He had the audience of kings and other very influential people. Uh, a lot of people felt he was involved in like certain secret missions. Cagliostro boasted about his Atlantean incarnations and things like that. He told a lot of stories, and some of the accounts say that he was making it up. Others say that he wasn't. He's a very interesting person, and I believe
Hmm.
he was jailed um, during some sort of troubles in Europe.
I see. All of that, all of that. There's so much to learn and glean from it, but it all comes back to, I think, acknowledging that there's a source behind all things, and that source has many branches and many exciting paths. I think to explore uh, over and beyond what we consider to be traditional religion as we know it. But I think that it's an exciting area of exploration, certainly, and people should not hold themselves back from seeing what new visions might be available to them through exploring these different areas of mysticism. And to me, that area, along with mythology as we know it, Olympian mythology opens up the pathways to all of that. Recognizing the gods, what each god represents in terms of life on this planet and whatever area of existence might be available to us in the next. So, I don't think you can ever place too much importance on the myths that have been available to us over the centuries, because I believe it opens the door to our own spirit in terms of growth and knowledge. So I think that's vitally important as well.
Yeah, if you resonate with them, and we both certainly resonate with them very powerfully, the other world mythologies too. There's a way of studying mythology where you see the correspondences, and in almost every
Hmm.
magic book, they have not pulling rabbits out of hats, but magic, transformational magic. They have
Hmm.
tables that show you what the equivalents are from system to system. And if you study comparative religion and comparative mythology, you'll soon see. Like for instance, the days of the week. They are
Hmm.
named after planets which are named after Roman gods, but not in
Yes.
English. In English, it's different gods that are associated with the um, days of the week, and they're not identical to the more Mediterranean gods. Like the Sunday is the day of the sun.
Hmm.
Monday is Moon Day, the day of the moon. Tuesday
Hmm.
is Tiu, Tiu, who is a war god, an Anglo-Saxon war god, and he's
Uh-huh.
Ares in Greek and Mars in Roman.
Hmm.
Wednesday is Woden's day. Woden is Odin, and
Oh.
translates into Hermes. So Mercury and Hermes are the Greco-Roman gods of Wednesday. Thursday
Hmm.
is Thor's day, very literally, and
Really?
Thor was equated with Jupiter. So Jupiter is the name of the planet that's associated with Thursday. Friday is Freya's day or Frigga's day, depending on which author you choose to believe. And that was the
Hmm.
goddess of love or marriage or both. And that's Aphrodite or the planet Venus. And Saturday is Saturn's day.
Okay.
And that's
That's interesting.
mythology or Saturn Roman mythology. But that's
Hmm.
how the days of the week are named. And they reflect the planetary deities of antiquity, which also correspond to the archangels, which also correspond to the Elohim, which also correspond to several other orders of divine being. I've been studying Gnosticism lately, so this corresponds to Gnosticism as well in the days of the week and the gods that are associated with them.
Hmm. That's very interesting. But it shows that the impact it's had on various cultures in terms of the availability of these teachings.
And
So
that's
that's
the esoteric again. The exoteric is different. Different cultures have different gods and so forth. But esoterically,
mm,
the information is basically the same. And if you know what the key is
mm,
esoterically, you could see that they're all telling you the same thing, just using different words. It's the curse of tongues that was brought on by the Garden of, not the Garden, the Tower of Babel.
mm. Well, I think the same is true in terms of when we get to the 19th century here in this country, in terms of the introduction of new thought, spirituality. The new thought it opens up doors. By that I mean it allows the person exposed to it first and foremost to enhance the ability to accept that these mystical teachings are out there and are available for research, are available for knowledge, are available to see how we can apply some of these teachings to our everyday life. That's where I think new thought was so important in this country when it was originally founded by Quimby, and before that,
Right.
around the same time, I think the Fillmores, still the Unity Church, still today, is considered a metaphysical system, if you will, and they simply believe that we're all tied to one source, and there are many paths to that source, and I think that just thinking that way, I call it universal thinking. We can call it holistic thinking. There's many terminologies that we can use, but it's looking at scripture, sacred scripture, basically any kind, from that perspective, that we can get a greater vision of what it's all about, what the originators were all about, the practitioners, and I think it's just a wonderful uh, concept, and that was a wonderful time when New Thought was really booming in this country, and when the various movements like Science of Mind, Unity, and many others began to open the door to try to make people understand that we are all connected to a super consciousness, one source, and we are a branch of that reality. When you think that way on a daily basis, anything is available to you.
Right.
Anything is available to you. It's just like faith principles. It's the same thing. So if we get up in the morning and remind ourselves that faith is the substance of things hoped for. One of my favorite quotes. But the evidence of things unseen. If you I think that's Hebrews, I'm not sure. But if you step back and just analyze that quote for a minute, that really tells the whole story. The substance is the substance. It's invisible. We can't touch it, but still the substance of everything hoped for. So first you talk about faith, and then next, I think, comes imagination. So faith is so vitally important, and the power, and also the law of expectation, which Neville Goddard talked about, ceaselessly in all of his quotations and lectures and studies. So I think that faith principles and lead to greater imagination, and from there, all the doors can be opened. I think imagination gives us the ability to operate in the infinite, in the infinite realm, over and above what we experience in the three-dimensional world that we live in. So imagination cannot create, though, without faith. The more faith you have, I think, greater spirit of expectation, the more discovery is available to us.
I need to invite you to our Cerulean Sphere. I think it's the second Sunday of the month where we have these types of conversations. And we have Setna, who and he sees things from an Egyptian standpoint. And I see things in a variety of standpoints, mostly Olympian and mostly theosophical, theurgic. And then we have Michael Duncan, also named Amon, and he has belonged to a lot of different philosophical and religious and spiritual organizations. So he has a bunch of perspectives. And we're forming something called the Cerulean Sphere, which on one level is the health and well-being of our planet, which is a cerulean sphere. But on the other, it's the astral plane or the imaginal plane. Because you're right, if you see things in your imagination, like if you look around your room, every single thing there was imagined by someone and then created, and then you
absolutely
launched it together. You took things that resonated or had importance to you, you arranged them your own way, which is your creativity. So everything was imagined, everything was created, everything was purchased, moved around, and they're like little blocks being arranged and rearranged. So that's constant creation.
And there are teachers in New Thought that have always, exemplified that, put that principle front and center, that we are actually always creating. And I could say to myself, when I step back and realize that that's so, and that my energy is being affected by every thought and the nature of that thought. If we step back and think like that on a daily basis, I think the power of expectation, it just automatically grows. Expectation grows in parallel to the kind of faith that we have. We're expecting what we want in our lives. We expect it. It's not if and when it is going to come. It's coming now, even as I provide the thought material to it.
Right.
So I think that's one of the vital keys in manifesting in our own lives. We know manifesting is real. We know the energy there is real. We know even energy transfer is real in terms of healing, in terms of prayer. A silent healing. Unity talks about silent healing and silent energy and what it can do. When we put a certain person that we want to have healed in our sights and we give it light, give it energy, give it expectation, all things are possible. So we know that can be very real. It's a matter of us making it a reality in the here and now in our lives.
Correct. And imagination helps make that reality more real. because it might be invisible for a while, but in your imagination, you can create what you see, and then your attention will draw you to circumstances, situations, and people that'll help you bring that about.
Absolutely, because and it's interesting to me. I was studying this week again about some interesting research I came across about the law of similars. If we know for a fact that the law of similars is very real, and we know that it is because the healing modalities based themselves on the law of similars in the late 1700s and 1800s, among sailors who were very sick. They appeared to have liver disease, other that when they were fed organ meats, and their condition improved dramatically. So I know there are those in the holistic community who are, the jury is out with them as far as glandular therapy. Glandular therapy really is the same as homeopathic. I consider it a homeopathic practice. It's not a homeopathic substance, but the principle is the same. And so I know that through my own rationale, my own pros and cons, I believe that there is validity to glandular therapy. So even though I'm a vegetarian, vegan for so many years now, I do take glandulars because I believe there is substance to it, and I also believe there is an anti-aging mechanism there overall, because the entire human system is affected. Every organ in the body is affected by the glandulars that we consume, and I believe they are energized. It's all about energy in the end. So I think there's that's another area of, again, there's a connecting factor. There's a universal concept. All of this can affect our lives in one way or the other. So, and it's a matter, each of us has to have to arrive at that point in our own way. But I think it's critical to be open to all of this information. Even where chronic inflammation in the immune system is concerned, nobody talked about that much 20 years ago. But now we know that evidential medicine is vital in terms of diet and the supplements that we take.
I've been experimenting with that. In fact, I just ran out of my glandular vitamins. You order it.
Mhm.
And I can give an example of manifestation with something recent. Um,
Mhm.
I was thinking of doing a show or two on theurgy. So I
Mhm.
found out that an author whose work I like um, just wrote a book on theurgy. So I contacted the publisher and asked for a review copy and an interview with the author. So I received the review copy. I was very impressed with the book. I spoke to the author and we arranged for an interview. Well, the author and I were
Mhm.
talking as you and I do, and an idea came into her head and she shared it with me about how there was a convention of theurgists that operated for a while, but then closed down. And wouldn't it be cool if we can get together and talk regularly with other theurgists? So I thought that was a great idea. So I made some phone calls, and first I interviewed people individually, then got them together, and then we've been talking for like 7 years. Uh, after,
Mhm.
after 5 years or so, the idea came to several of us that, hey, why don't we write a book? We've talked about all this stuff, for years. So the publisher that I initially contacted to contact the author was presented with the idea and liked it. So we had the authors already, and it took 2 years of writing, rewriting, polishing, repolishing, and all the process that they went through. We finally finished and it's been published. It came out in November at Amazon. So that too, it just started with ideas and imagination, and people listening to each other talk and then acting upon ideas that resonated with them. So yes, it still required a lot of hard work to put the book
Mhm.
together, but
Right.
now it exists in reality, whereas before it didn't exist in reality. Now it's something that's there, and all our conversations are distilled, the essence of them, in helping people. We simplified what knowledge we had, and created ways where people can mess around with it and experiment with it and find their own answers. And now it's out there available for people.
Well, that's either because the reality of the concept suddenly became very real. It was, the concept was there. And as you continue to push your energy in that area, unleash your energy in that area, it's slow but sure, it came into fruition. And yeah, and I've seen it happen in my own life. Look, when it comes to manifestation, we'll always be surprised. So it doesn't happen sometimes when we expect it.
Right.
Sometimes it happens, you're when you least expect it. But if you plant those seeds, it's all about seed faith. It's planting that faith seed in whatever it is you're expecting in your life, the next direction, the path that you've been chosen to walk, both from a area of super consciousness and your own consciousness. And it can become very real. And I believe that I've seen it happen in my own life. Have I been surprised a few times the way it's unfolded? Yes. Not always for the better, but most of the time, yes. But where I saw myself most of the time, as much of a struggle as it may have been, lo and behold, there I was. I was in that space.
Right.
So there's no question. It's not just about energy. Everybody talks about energy these days. Once they discover metaphysics, it's the quality of that energy, the nature of that energy. What kind of energy are we putting out? And that's also very important. And then, of course, there's the vibrational factor. Vibration. Right. Be what you want to be. Be what you're hoping for. Be what you want to bring into manifestation. See yourself that way now. Some of these techniques are so exciting, and that's why, for me, I think in areas like this, where you can not only change your life, but change others, vibration and repetition also come into there is so important. And that's why I do believe in writing affirmations down on a daily basis. You can call them prayers. Some call them prayers. I separate the two. There's certain prayers that I do for everyone. And then, of course, there's affirmations for myself. Where do I want my life to go? Do I need to be healed? And I affirm that. So I send out prayer energy to all those that I've been blessing my life, and those people, as a matter of fact, I haven't met yet, but also the nature of that energy in terms of affirming that it's so. And that Neville had it so right when he talked about the law of assumption, the law of expectation, all very critical parts of this great adventure. And it is a great adventure, and I wish it would be so for everyone who discovers the metaphysical world, that we are seeking beyond the physical. That's all it means. We are seeking beyond the third dimension as we know it, because we know that there's another level of life-giving experiences and life-giving energy there at that point. So I think that's why I like the way he worded that. Or whether you call it assumption, expectation, it's all the same thing, but it's all very wonderful once we make it a part of our everyday lives.
Right. I can give two other examples off the top of my head of manifestation. One of them was, did I tell you the $1 million story?
I don't think you did.
Okay, I was talking to the universe. I guess you could say I was praying, and I was pitching the idea to the universe that I would like in my retirement to open up a community for old metaphysicians. Because most people seeking metaphysical answers did not devote themselves to becoming rich. So the retirements were often challenging. So I thought if I got a campground or something with like little houses in it, we could have like a community for people who are metaphysicians, and then we could have people come for lectures and things like that. So we'd be able to generate revenue to pay the electric bills and things like that. So I thought that was a great idea. So
yeah, I'm there.
I asked the universe for millions of dollars, and I think I didn't give an amount. But anyway, within a day, I started getting millions of dollars. But the thing is, it was play money. People who didn't know this story were giving me
Mhm.
$1 million bills, like with the Statue of Liberty on them, with Obama on them, with
Mhm.
the Statue of Liberty, with all sorts of different things on the $1 million bill. Some of them, they even give me the chocolates where the $1 million bill was part of the cover for the chocolates. So I got like all these millions of dollars, but they weren't in actual money. And what
Mhm.
made it amazing was it would have been easier for the universe to give me millions of dollars in real money than to give me millions of dollars in play money, because I'm sure the play money is not as concentrated as real money. But it taught me a very important thing that the universe is listening, and it can respond fairly quickly if it wants to. And the universe has a sense of humor and has no problem saying no. So that was something,
That's remarkable.
uh,
That's remarkable.
magical lesson.
And I think most people would agree with you that the universal consciousness was definitely sending you a message. They
Yes.
heard you. They heard you. That's remarkable. Well, I
And
would certainly be one of your occupants if that ever comes to fruition.
yeah, as would we, but I haven't let go of that idea, so who knows what'll happen. Maybe it's not the right time yet. And there was another story. Oh yeah, this one happened when I was a kid. I was looking for a Conan book called the
Hmm.
Hyborian Age Gazetteer. And I really wanted this book, and it was very expensive at the time for a kid, so I couldn't afford it. And it was hard to find because it was like one of these like
Hmm.
small presses. So anyway, I stopped asking for it, and years passed. It's like 40 years passed. And I was in Forest Hills in Queens, where I was living at the time, and all of a sudden I had this real strong urge to go to Barnes and Noble. And I had no idea why, but I had a really strong urge, and it was like, go now to Barnes and Noble. So I listened, and I went to Barnes and Noble, and I was looking around, wondering what I'm doing in Barnes and Noble, and then I saw the Hyborian Edge Gazetteer for $7.95 in the used book table. So I grabbed
That's
it, and I
amazing.
asked for a manager to see if they got anything else like with that lot that might be on display. So if I might find some other Robert E. Howard or Sword and Sorcery or Conan books, they were hard to find. But the manager looked it up on the computer and said it's not even in the computer. He had no idea how it got there. So then I became concerned that he wouldn't sell it to me, but he sold it to me. So I
That's
had the
wonderful.
Conan Gazetteer, and I forgot about the Conan Gazetteer, but the universe remembered, and
Hmm.
it sent me a signal. It was an enigmatic signal, but I got the signal. I followed up, and I finally got this book after like 4 decades.
You know something? It's really amazing how those things work.
Yeah.
And sometimes they happen in big and little ways.
Hmm.
But if we step back and recognize it, it happens more frequently than we at times can attest to. But I know what you're saying because I've seen it myself. I'll be thinking of a rare book that I once came across in the '60s. All of a sudden, I'll be on the internet, and there somehow it pops up.
Right.
It pops up. Somebody was seeking it or wondering about it too. I said, "Wow, look at this! This guy was seeking the same source material that I was. How does that happen?" And you have to recognize these events when they take place because
Yes.
again, it's energy transfer and it's very real.
And unfortunately, our conversation comes to an end for tonight. But do you want to be invited to the Cerulean Sphere conversations?
I would like to, yes, I would like to learn more about it and meet your other guests. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll give you a call before then. We'll talk about it, and then if you're still interested, I'll invite you. It's the second Sunday of the month.
Second Sunday of the month. That'll be great.
And we just honored Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in a show.
Oh, okay, very good.
And one of the magicians who was on the show, not magician with the pulling rabbits out of hats, but doing spiritual magic, he shared a lot of Blavatsky's early days as a deep trance medium. So we got a lot of
Oh,
interesting information about Blavatsky that's not in circulation. Well, that
hmm.
that really well. So how can people,
Well, all right.
because you're an amazing person
Um,
with an amazing perspective, and you're very eloquent and very thoughtful. how can people find you? How can they read your writings? And how can they
Well,
interact with you more?
well, that's very kind of you to say that. I believe in distance prayer. I believe in energy transfer in terms of healing. And as far as prayer, healing, and affirmation, uh, people can write to me at Michael Del Russi box, Michael Del Russi 135 Hazel Street, apartment 7E in Clifton, New Jersey, 07011. I would prefer that the prayer requests are handwritten as opposed to typed, and I will definitely pray over them, send energy, and write you back. And you will be on my prayer list on a regular basis.
Thank you, my friend. And you could also be reached on Facebook. Is that correct?
Yes, I have a Facebook page, simply Michael Del Russi, and I share spiritual, metaphysical, and holistic information. I belong to the Life Extension Foundation. I'm always getting some new source material in terms of supplements, diet, and I'm open to the conference on those issues as well for anyone who might be interested.
Fantastic. And I've read your stuff and I'm impressed by it. And I'm grateful that I had a chance to experience it.
Well, thank you. You coming into our lives and sharing the knowledge that you possess has been my greatest experience without a doubt. And so we all appreciate what you have done for all of us and all of the listeners, as well as in terms of opening those doors to the infinite.
Thank you. I'm honored by your words. And thanks to everybody tuned in tonight. This will be up on viewable by tomorrow noon. I would like to wish everybody a happy holiday season, joyous journeys and amazing adventures. And again, thank you, Michael Del Russi. You're an awesome individual, and I'm honored to know you.
Thank you, my friend. I feel the same. Blessings always to everyone.
Okay, good night, everybody.